All right, hey, guess what? It's Monday. It's the 22nd day of November 2021. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Guyana time. We have a packed program, 1 hour of which we want to give you all of the latest happening in Guyana and maybe in some other part of the world. We will do that as well. My guests this evening are Corruption McDonald, Member of Parliament, and we also will be joined later by attorney at law, prominent attorney at law, Mr. Nigel Hughes, the man who should have been senior counsel. I don't know, some others are parading around with this title of SC, senior counsel. In my opinion, they should never have been senior counsel, but it's just my opinion, right? All right, and I noticed another thing: endorsements sharing out like bingo tickets these days. Congress is something else. We'll be right back with Straight Up. Spread the word, share the link. I have a lot I want to talk with you guys about. I promise you this evening there will be no shouting, there will be no yelling, there will be no name calling, there will be absolutely none of that. Tonight is a serious night. We'll be right back.
Eco-friendly Christmas. The Guyana Public Service Cooperative Credit Union is pleased to present our annual Christmas promotion, commencing November 1st, 2021 and concludes December 17, 2021. The credit union recognizes and acknowledges the importance of minimizing our carbon footprint and has tailored this year's promotion to suit by presenting our members with an electric car and bikes, which will undoubtedly raise awareness and help our members to adopt. To participate, one must be a member of the Guyana Public Service Cooperative Credit Union, must like and follow the credit union's Facebook page, must have an existing loan with the credit union, must be in good standing with the credit union, must not be an immediate family member of any staff or committee member, must earn a gross of less than $150,000 monthly, and proof of this fact must be attached. And only one coupon is allowed per member. It's an eco-friendly Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. It's not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. If we are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, no, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play. And you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours. Dirty on your health. Dirty on your business. Dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.
All right. I hope you understand that the gentleman is saying dirty, dirty, right? As in dirty, dirty on your health. It's dirty, dirty. Sounds Nigerian, maybe South African, or, so the accent is there. It reminds me of those guys out in Kildonan Village, Norney and Limlear. He speaks almost identical to them. Guys like, let me not call some of those guys from Limlear and stuff, because whenever I'm down there, it's a village or those villages I like to stop by and see what the guys are doing there. Now, this here, let me just make this announcement. Lemon is back on the job. We gave him a second chance. We do believe in giving people second chances. And so even in the wider society, if a youngster got grabbed with a small spliff, marijuana, whatever, that person should be given a second chance. We do believe in second chances here. And so Lemon, for the third time, is back on the job. And you know when Lemon is on the job, because that's when that song comes on, Rub My Body or whatever. You guys know I'm not like that, right? I'm a nice, calm, quiet guy. Very, very quiet. So Lemon is back on the job. Look at that store there. It's down in Brooklyn. Go out and support those people. If you're in school or whatever, you're a nurse, You need uniform, whatever you need, go down to that store. It's 5606 Church Avenue in Brooklyn, right between Utica and somewhere before you reach, Kings Highway. Sorry, gosh, Kings Highway indeed. Go out and support these businesses, right? All right, so welcome to Straight Up. I know you guys are eager to see my face. I know that. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's not do that at all. Now, there are some things that I want to talk about. You know, Miss Coretta McDonald, she is going to be on with us. In fact, she is already in studio, lined up. I've noticed Lemon is smiling because I'm not going to tell you what color she's wearing, one of Lemon's favorite color. You'll see it when she's on. And then later on, we'll have Nigel Hughes, that lawyer. Oh, yeah, that lawyer who should have been senior counsel. But he is not senior counsel. Don't ask me why, because I don't have the answer for everything. Some people think that I have the answer for everything. You know what I mean? Whether it's politics, I don't. I'm just an ordinary guy, not an elected official. You know, and some people getting vexed. Oh, gosh, Benn doesn't want to endorse anybody. I have, for this race that is coming up, the Congress, those who are running for the leader, the top spot, I have no horse in the race. But they got some people like they're so dense, you got to keep dig it in, you know, or some of them obviously with ulterior motives. And it's like a salad when they dress it up and they try to nice it up. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you add it up, right? Because they're all over the place. But I tell you what, we don't do that here. And let me make this point clear for all of you to understand. If I, Mark Anthony Benchop, had a horse in that race, be it Aubrey Norton, be it Richard Van West Charles, be it Frederick Harmon, Joseph Frederick Harmon, nobody would have been on top of the highest mountain talking about whichever candidate I support. So I don't have to beat around the bush or hide behind some busy or tamarind tree or saffron. I know a lot of you guys don't know saffron and all them kind of things. Miss Coretta McDonald knows about that. And hide and run and beat around the bush because I'm afraid of anybody. No! Me not afraid. I will say it like it is. But again, I have no horse in the race. Why some people can't put that into their head and understand I have absolutely no horse in the race. And this is, we see the chairmanship, the vice chairmanship. It's a big field. It's a huge field. And I don't have enough tickets, lottery tickets or bingo tickets to share out endorsement. Why? No. I wish all of them well. Oh, yeah. We all want to see fighters. We all want to see true fighters and all these things. And people, for me, I want to see people with track record. And all, Benchop is throwing shades. No, it's just me. Why some people can't understand that form of democracy? Why can't they put in this pipe and smoke it? Welcome to Straight Up. Welcome to Straight Up. I don't know. Miss Coretta McDonald, I caught you and Lemon deliberately put you on smiling like that. Look at that pink outfit you have on. Look at that hairdo. Good evening, Madam MP. Good evening.
Good evening to you, Mark, and good evening to your viewers.
I can put my head on the block that you were on the quarantine, and that hairstyle you got from Lancaster, Liverpool area. Somebody plait your hair from Lancaster, Liverpool. Tell me if I'm lying or not.
You're not lying, you know. This is what I went to school with many days. All your hair back in one big cornrow, and then you have the ribbon down there.
And nice
for those
green ribbon.
Those who were going to Winifred Gaskin Memorial Secondary, you better make sure when Stuarty stand up there, you got on those ribbons.
I know. Look, I don't know. Look, let me see. I'm looking at some constructive comments. There will be some trench crappos and some dotish stuff that I usually see. But I like folks who graphs on. I don't like these because some of the folks who are on Facebook and so forth without a photograph, a display picture, it simply means that it's somebody created another profile and all, and they don't want to show themselves. So I oftentimes ignore those sort of things. But yeah, I know our good friend Kurt Caesar, his dad passed away out there on the quarantine. Yeah, yes. We want to extend condolences to Kurt Caesar and his entire family on the passing of his dad. What was your visit like on the quarantine, and what was the purpose? To attend some wedding, eat free food? What were you doing on the quarantine?
Well, you know, Mark, I was on the quarantine about a week and a half ago. I'm having a tablet drive, and that's what I distribute to the students who have just pupils who have just completed grade 6 exams this year, last year, the year before. And so I was on the quarantine there at one of our regular campaign meetings that we've started, because, you know, I'm on the Joe Harmon team. And so we've been there, but I went up there earlier because I had some tablets to distribute to some, or to give to some children there who just completed their exams. And one such was a 12-year-old girl. She's the granddaughter of Miss Bridget, who died recently, a PNC stalwart. And when I was on the quarantine, sometime in August of this year, where of course the cream of my distribution was in Liverpool, because I lived in Liverpool for many, many years. So I did in Liverpool, we did 13 tablets I did in Liverpool. And so everybody, they were fussing, why only the children from Liverpool? So I said, well, you know what? I've been going around the place, but I've decided to center this one on Liverpool. But I'm going to be in Manchester, I'm going to be in Ulverston, and I'm going to be in Alness. And so Miss Bridget, then she made her plea then for her granddaughter. And so when I went up there, I made sure I got, unfortunately, she's not alive, but I was able to honor that promise that I made to her. And it was good being there, you know, because I was able to walk in some of the busy after a long, long time. And it's always good to interact with the folks. I'm not sure if you remember this guy, Kiro. He's a Campbell, tall guy. He's now into rice farming. And this was the guy who was very willing to lend, well, not to lend us, but to use his tractor when I went to visit the sluice out at the end there and so on. So it's a good feeling to go there and to give back to the society where I grew up in, to give back to children who are in need, because I spoke about this before and I'll say it again. The villages, Lancaster, Liverpool, Manchester, Ulverston, Alness, Limnir, Hockstyle, and all those villages going Norney, Kildonan, all those villages
don't forget heading back west, you'll have Salton, Big Alness, then Small Alness, then Ulverston.
Right. So I'm saying all those villages from Lancaster to Nerney, and then when we skip a few, we go to Kilturn and Evesham and Brighton and so on. All those villages were bypassed by your good friend Priya when she distributed tablets and all kinds of things there.
Well, let me great job, great initiative, and everything that you have done for those people in that neck of the woods. And a lot of them that I know, I'm sure, maybe their parents, their grandparents, and so forth. Kudos. But let me ask you this now. Putting all of that aside, and again, congratulations for a great job done, remembering where you came from and so forth. I want to begin with the 7%. How have you taken it? And what about your teachers? How are they accepting that? Go right ahead.
Mark, 7%. Like you would have seen in some of the videos that are being circulated on social media at this time. And I always say history is a very good teacher. Technology is even better, where we can go back to things that persons said. And there we saw Ifran Ali talking about he's happy that the coalition would have returned to collective bargaining. And the if it were the PPP, they would have given the workers more than 20%. We saw Dagdio there talking about the GPSU should ask for 50%. We even saw the billboard, that poster that was there, spoke about free university education, 50% salary increases, 50,000 jobs. And then we saw this big thing, this big announcement. You know, every time there's an announcement, especially when it comes to increases, everybody is there and they're tuned in. And the next thing you heard was 7. And the 7 didn't, it took a while before it actually came out there. So when people recognized what was happening, and not only the general public, but teachers in particular, when we recognize 7%, no man, something wrong. It's not 7, it's a mistake. It's 70, not 7%. And then when we actually got what it is, we recognize that it's 7%. I want to say this is a slap not only in the faces of dedicated teachers and other public servants, but this is a slap in the faces of Sarah Lynch. They formed the Canadian ambassador, Chatterjee, whatever is her name, the ambassador to the UK guy, the guardians of democracy, Jerry Govaya, and the whole side of them. This is a slap in their faces, where they were the ones championing the cause, according to them, democracy and the return of this and return of that. And then you come with 7%. These people are disrespectful. They are shameless. They ain't got no heart. And I don't even know what else to say about them. But what I know for sure is that they ain't got no shame. They ain't got no shame.
I think 99% of our listeners are well aware of that they have no shame. They have absolutely none. And so, apart from that, you are the General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Apart from that, you are a member of Parliament of the coalition with 31 members of Parliament there. All of them I've seen so far, or most of them, are complaining, and rightly so, about the 7%. Majority of the people in Guyana are complaining about the 7%. My question to you, Madam MP, what are you guys doing other than complaining about the 7%? For example, your union, what are some of the plans to confront this illegitimate regime concerning that very, very small 7%?
Well, Mark, what we have started doing right now is to, we've started clustering our teachers. And we're going to have first a general meeting with our teachers in the various clusters. We'll take from them their thoughts, their opinions, their suggestions, and then we are going to move with that to the cluster of trade unions that are going to be meeting very soon. As a matter of fact, we start our meeting with the Guyana Trades Union Congress tomorrow, and in that grouping, GTU is an affiliated member. So we'll start our conversation there, and then we'll take it, GTU will take that to their membership, and then we'll have the trade unions across Guyana, the sensible trade unions, we're going to be meeting, and coming out of those discussions, we are going to put together what we do in December and what we do from there on with regards to our reaction to the 7%.
You know, people might be saying that the unions and politicians, especially those in the opposition, ought to be proactive. Now, there should have been a plan already in place in anticipation of this meager, this low salary increase, 7%. You didn't expect the PPPC, as they said, when they were in the opposition, they promised a 50% and all these different things we're hearing. You didn't expect them to give a 40%, a 20%, a 15%, a 10%. Now, they're accustomed giving 5%. Now, it was anticipated that they would have gone a little over that 5%. You guys had all the time in the world to plan. Why now, this planning stage that may probably go over into January, February? Why now?
Well, Mark, Mark, don't forget, the GTU, we've been on the ground for some time. Unfortunately, we had to pull boots off the ground.
Why?
And
One second. Why you guys pull boots off the ground? Why?
all right. The rationale behind it was that we would have started losing some grounds. We started losing some of the boots on the ground. And so the executive thought that it would have been a better thing to suspend the action for a while. Let's regroup and then new strategies to come on the ground again. I think this opportunity, this 7%, has given us the opportunity to hit the grounds again. I don't think we're going to be hitting boots on the ground. We have to come stronger than that. And it is because of that reason why we're going to be meeting with our teachers. We don't want to make this decision without consulting with our teachers. And so we're going to be meeting with them, because teachers all across Guyana, even those who did not support, no, not all boots, even those who did not support the action fully. And, you know, it's amazing that in 2018, when we were having our industrial actions, our teachers, especially on the Essequibo Coast, on the first day, we had about 65% support. On the second day, we had the second and third day, and continuing from there, we had almost 100% support from our teachers on the Essequibo Coast. But this time around, they were listening to all sorts of foolishness, and they were being told that it's political. But in 2018, they did not see that as being political. However, 7% is hitting all of them. COVID is hitting all of them. Locking out from schools is hitting all of them. And so they're actually understanding, when GTU said boots on the ground, it wasn't any act of getting back at any political party or getting back at the government, but it was a case of bread and butter, a bread and butter issue. And that is what we ought to be dealing with. And so, Mark, at this time in our, when we are going to be recouping, let me say that, and regrouping and having our strategies refocused, our meeting with the teachers will say exactly what they want to see happen, and we'll take it from there. As a matter of fact, we were accustomed to be launching our actions in Georgetown, which is a part of Region 4, but we are going to be moving our launch from Georgetown or Region 4 to another location, and then we'll know exactly whether our teachers are serious about this whole business of having a comfortable life and a wage that is actually livable. We're going to see that for sure.
We're going to see that for sure. We will. All right. The General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union is talking about boots on the ground and something probably bigger. I don't know, but you guys had something going, then you guys pull back. It reminds me of Alnis racetrack or Port Morant racetrack, right? When the horses are running, and then one horse pull back and say, "No, I ain't gonna run this race. I can wait till the other race," and all these sort of things. But whatever happened, still with the GTU, the president of the Guyana Teachers Union, Mr. Mark Light, said weeks ago that they wrote to Air Finale, begging Air Finale to meet with him. As General Secretary of the Union, have you guys gotten a response from Air Finale?
We have not gotten a response from Air Finale. We have not gotten any response from the Ministry of Education, because we wrote them again, reminding that we sent our proposal, and we've not heard anything from them. We just recently, I don't know, it seems as if the entire ministry is now politicized, because we have written the Chief Education Officer on policy issues. And to date, we've not gotten a response from the Chief Education Officer either. And I don't know what is happening. And policy, the policies, they have nothing to do with politics. The policies that we're going to talk about are issues that are facing teachers in schools, which I don't see any politics in that. We're talking about promotion for teachers. Again, no politics in that. We're talking about the teachers' salaries, teachers who were teachers who would have graduated sometime in 2016 from the Sir Potter College of Education, and teachers who would have graduated in 2019 and 2021, their salaries are different. And so those are the issues that we want to have addressed. We want to address issues of acting and that kind of thing in schools.
Miss McDonald, Honorable MP, let us face reality. The PPPC, these folks in the installed PPP regime, didn't give a damn about what you're saying, and with all due respect, or what you're to say of the union or whatever. They don't care. You guys have to make them care. You guys have to force them to be concerned. You guys have to force them to head to the bargaining table, to write them a letter and beg them to meet with them. It's just not going to happen at all. That is just my opinion, with all due respect. But continue.
And Mark, I agree. I totally agree with you. And our teachers, especially our teachers on the in Region 4, in Region 5, Region 6, Region 10, Region 1, they are all up and they are annoyed with what is happening. As a matter of fact, just before I got on the program, teachers were saying to me, "Miss, time for stop talking. We need to act now." But you know, we can't throw what we want, what the teachers are saying out there. We can't throw it out now, but we have to act. And the only way for us to, like you said, the only way for us to get the PPP to move is to operate just like them. Don't care, just like them. You see, the thing is, as teachers, we often talk about, oh, and the children, and what about the children? But I think the time has come where we're going to have to draw a line. It's not that we don't care about our children and our children's education, but we have to draw that line.
It's not like the time gonna come. Let's face reality. Time has already passed. People want action. Teachers are starved. Teachers are being ill-treated throughout that country. No respect for teachers.
That's true.
Or whatever. They are looking for strong leadership, not just in the opposition, but in the union, the guy in the teachers' union. When was the last time the teachers heard something about the president of the union? And this is not knocking my friend Mark Light. We all went to the same school, you, me, Mark Light, all of us. Winifred Gaskin Memorial Secondary. It's nothing personal, but the teachers want somebody to stand up and fight their battle for them. Not talk or pia. Fight, real fight with boots on the ground. It is not happening. Something good was going on at the Square of the Revolution. It stopped. I don't know. All these protests that obviously were heading in the right direction of getting real results and making the PPP buckle, they just disappeared. No more protests, no more boots on the ground, no more nothing. I don't know. Miss McDonald, if I had to cry right now on national, on Facebook or social media, and for people through 107.1 FM to hear me, I will cry right now. I will do that.
And Mark, I agree with you. I share your passion, and it's the way I feel about what we should be doing. We shouldn't stop. We should be ongoing. Even if you have two persons out there, that's how I feel.
Precisely.
We should be standing out there.
You are the general secretary. You're the action person. Drag your president of the union onto the streets and tell him he has to represent the teachers throughout Guyana. All of them, whether it's 1, 2, 3, whatever, drag him out into the streets, man.
Yes. And
Mr.
so, Mark, we have been moving. We have been moving around the country after we had that halt or that suspension. We've started moving around the country. Just last Friday, it was. I came from the Essequibo Coast, and of course, at those meetings, I spoke straight to the teachers and let them understand. In 2018, it wasn't. We were on the streets. Why is it that in 2021 we are seeing it as being different? Why is it that we're seeing it different? We are facing the same challenges in 29 and even worse, because in 2021, we have COVID, and in many schools, teachers would have contracted COVID, pupils and students have contracted COVID, and you know what? They're being told by their departments of education, schools will continue as normal. Don't let the parents know what is happening, and they're just looking, okay, If it's a particular classroom, they are closing that classroom, not taking into effect that children would have been walking all around the place, or teachers might have moved from one class to the other. So teachers are suffering. And the thing is, like I said earlier, some persons got carried away because they were given misinformation that this is about attacking people, attacking the government in place, the illegal regime.
Wait. Who cares whether the government is being attacked? Because the government is attacking, they're choke and robbing, they're hanging people economically and otherwise. Who cares what the PPP think? Go out there, strangle them back with protests, with real boots on the ground, with real fight on the ground. I'm feeling the fire here, Miss Coretta McDonald. You guys have to take the political fight to them, not on social media, not on talking, not running around now because it's Congress and all these things. Take the fight to them. I know you have that in you, Ms. Coretta McDonald. Take the fight to them.
Well, Mark, you know, the thing is, Congress or no Congress, I am a teacher and I have to live. So whether there's Congress or there's no Congress, the business of GTU, it continues. And so when I have to speak on forums like these, or I have to be on the ground with the teachers, I say this story just as straight as it is. And so our teachers are ready. And as soon as we would have ended those meetings, then we will start having some more actions. And teachers are going to signal to all and sundry that our business, education is our business. And if you can't fix it, then we are going to halt the wheels.
People want the wheels to be hauled right now. Block up the wheels, take a thing and screwdriver and thing and pull out the wheel, pluck out the wheel. That's what people are looking, because people are tired of these sort of things that the regime is doing without any proper action, constructive action, real fight. Now they're hearing just social media kind of fighting and all of these sort of things and boots on social media on Facebook and all these. They're not seeing the real boots on the ground. But that's another story. I want to talk about fire. But before we get to fire, what's going on? I heard about a young lady somewhere in Buxton, attorney at law, Mr. Nigel Hughes will be on with us in just 1 minute, folks. I know you're excited to see him. What's going on with that young lady that committed suicide somewhere out in Buxton area? Police mishap, some rape allegations and all these things. Have you heard about that? And if so...
Well, Mark, that young lady is dead and she was buried today. Yeah. She's dead and she was buried today. So at 18 years old, we have lost another citizen in the prime of her life, 18 years old. And, you know, like I was saying earlier on another program, when we were talking about this whole issue of a male handing out packets of sanitary napkins to a student, a 14-year-old, or it might have been a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old. And we were saying that we are still tabooed about all of these things. And to have to expose a young lady to that, it was not the right thing to do, even though the initiative is a good one. The thing is, we have to start having these kinds of conversations before we expose our young people to this, especially our little girls, to having males handing them sanitary napkins, because I'm almost certain that young lady's father never bought that for her because of the taboo that is attached to it. We have not grown as yet. And so this whole thing about rape, it's still highly stigmatized. And so in many, many cases, rather than the victim being the one that we offer all the support to, in many, many instances, the victim is the one who's been ostracized. And so you recognize this was a young man whom the mother trusts. She had a whole lot of trust and confidence in him. So she called him to go pick up her daughter, to drop her off at the function, and then to pick her up to have her returned home. And rather than doing that, he went his own way. He did what he had to do. He raped her, let me say that. And the police did not play the kind of role that we expected them to play. And here is where, until we start holding persons accountable and having them feel and pay for the mistakes that they make, we are going to continue to have these kinds of issues in our society. And it's not only happening in Buxton, you know. I just saw it today in Region 1 where the commander there was saying that there has been an increase of 240% of rape in Region 1, and it's of concern to him. So this whole thing about rape and no, the fact is nobody is paying any serious attention to this issue. That's the fact.
And it is a fact. It has been happening for a while, and the police seem to be complicit in that. Lots of covering up. I know a lot of cases. When I was there through the foundation, we have dealt with a lot of cases, and oftentimes the perpetrators are allowed to pay off the victim or the victim's family, and all these sort of things. Look, Lemon has signaled to me. I'm sorry about that. Lemon has signaled to me that we have a prominent attorney at law, Nigel Hughes, is with us. He has been with us for a while. We don't want to keep him waiting. We just want to apologize, but let's get him. And why is Mr. Nigel Hughes coming on is that we want to talk about this, the fire, another fire at another police station, the Honorable Attorney at Law, Mr. Nigel Hughes, the man whom I should have been addressing tonight as senior counsel, but I'll still address him as senior counsel. Good evening to you, Nigel. How are you? Your microphone, sir. Good evening.
Sorry. Good evening, Mark. It's always a privilege to be here. I want to say good night to Miss McDonald. I absolutely love the passion. I know Mark was giving you a hard time as always. Mark, I have SC. I'm a senior citizen, not a senior counsel.
Well, I didn't want to say that publicly, but I was going to call you after and say that's what I meant by SC.
Yeah, senior citizen. Yeah, absolutely.
No. But good to see you here this evening, Mr. Nigel.
Good to speak with you.
How have you been, sir?
I've been good. God's been good. I was just back from Essequibo and doing well.
Okay, and let's touch on the fires, man. Breakdown Police Station, we've had you here. We spoke about the fire. The files and all of these things that were burnt up, how much it will have an impact on the cases. Now here we are talking about Ivleri, OPR, and parts of the Director of Public Prosecution's office and so forth, files damaged. Let's touch with the OPR first, which is the Office of Professional Responsibility. And that office deals with police misconducts and so forth and so on. That has been burnt to the ground. How concerned, as an attorney, how concerned are you that all those files have been burnt as well?
Certainly, I think the loss of all the files in the OPR is a matter of grave concern. There would have been investigations into police persons who were accused of wrongdoing, who were the subject of investigations. And as you know, the Guyana Police Force, their constitutional responsibility is to the citizens. And of course, you can't have people who have questionable characteristics in the police force. So if there were people who were being investigated for either illegal acts, corrupt acts, or acts that were of some degree of perversity, the least we would have expected, even though the police would have been investigating their own, was that, there would be an investigation and that those who were culpable would face sanction and some would be weeded out of the Guyana Police Force. With the loss of the documents, I really don't know how many exhibits, how many statements. You can always get statements back, but how many critical pieces of those investigations have been lost. What I do want to say, though, Mark, is that we cannot possibly be in 2021, in the era in which most of the rest of the world is digital, and still be relying on physical handwritten pieces of paper, as a basis to proceed with an investigation, to bring it to trial, to deal with disciplinary proceedings. Everywhere else is digitized. We should have digitized a long time ago. I think breakdown would have been a salutary warning to most of us. And we've done nothing. We haven't introduced any legislation that allows us. For example, Mark, I know that you own a lot of property in Guyana. You should be able to sit at your keyboard, right where you are, go into the deeds registry, conduct a search, and then you see Mark Benn shot the millionaire. You shouldn't be calling me, Nigel, to ask my clerk to run to the court to do due diligence. We really, if we're serious about building a country that serves its citizens, we have real issues here.
Real issues indeed. Let me issue a disclaimer. Mr. Nigel used just hypothetically speaking, that if I owned a lot of properties, you say that, Nigel, and people are not going to want to cash out me anymore. They're not going to want to sell me anything to assist with the radio station, all because of that statement you made there. So let me
correct it. I was using it as a hypothetical, and it was part of my wish for you. I was wishing it for you.
Well,
I was passing it on.
Mark, just claim that. Just claim it, Mark.
No, because I know how our Guyanese people stay. Next thing you know, they said the one Benn shop owner set a property. We can't even no cash up or no nothing no more. And Nigel, don't do that to me, my friend. Don't do that.
Oh, I apologize. I would be the first to say that I was just being a little facetious. So please.
Somebody already saying, look, there's a comment already, Nigel and Coretta. Sell us a piece, Mark. They want to sell us a piece. And so you are correct. But one of the things, in terms of, when I say you are correct in terms of the storage of files and all these different things, but I want to ask you about this particular case, because the Orange Boston case, what has happened here? Because obviously...
Actually, Mark, that case is worse than you think. So this was a pretty straightforward case. It's now over 2 months since Mr. Boston was murdered by officers of the Ghana Police Force. Of course, naturally, everybody was concerned that the Ghana Police Force would be investigating itself. One would have hoped that in an attempt to dispel what was the initial skepticism about the ability of the Ghana Police Force to investigate itself, the police would have conducted as thorough an investigation and would have charged the officer by now. This is not a complex case. This is 3 men going to a room, shoot a man who is naked, lying in his bed next to his wife. Mark, this is not a whodunit case. This is not trying to figure out if you had a good angle. Did you see the person, who it is? None of these issues is involved in this case. This is not a case where Mr. Boston was armed or appeared to be armed or was a threat. This is a case that is literally as simple as it can get. You go into a man's room, he's sleeping at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he gets shot lying in his bed. He urinates himself in the bed. All the evidence is there. Now, after, 7 weeks, charges cannot be installed. When this incident took place, we said on behalf of the family that we will afford the police a reasonable time to conduct this investigation. Our estimation at the outside was that it would take no more than 4 to 5 weeks to conclude this investigation. The police know the 3 men that entered the room. They know the man that actually fired the shot. And what is really disturbing is that if they really release the information, the person that actually fired the shot didn't fire that shot by accident. He knew what he was going to do. He knew exactly who his target was. We then heard that this file had moved from the OPR to the Police Complaints Authority, and the Police Complaints Authority wanted to conduct their own investigation. I cannot again imagine what would consume the length of time that it is actually consuming in a case where the facts are before you. Now, we've written to the police on no less than 4 occasions. We've written to the police and the Police Complaints Authority on no less than 4 occasions. We've received no response. We didn't expect a response. We've indicated that we would institute private criminal charges. But one of the key things about this is that the wife, who was in the bed, all these police officers were masked, so she can't identify them. We asked the police to disclose the names of the officers who went into the room, because this is required for the purposes of prosecution, and they have not responded. We are going to actually host a press conference pretty soon with the family. I don't wish it to be a press conference for the purposes of expressing lamentation, holding our hands at the head and saying, what are we going to do? It is evident here, and I do say this statement very cautiously, but very in a considered manner, that given the length of time that it has taken for any charges to be instituted in this matter, it appears as if there is an interest in ensuring that the persons who are responsible for this murder are not brought to justice. There is no other reason for this. This does not require international forensic assistance. This is not the Henry Boys at the back dam with no alleged eyewitnesses. This is a case where it is a police officer. There is documented evidence of who the three officers are. I know that there are statements in the police files which have identified the officer, and not only identified him, that have indicated what he did say prior to the execution of Mr. Boston. Now, most law-abiding citizens expect the Ghana police force, even with the challenges it faces, to do the right thing. And the question is, and I heard you ask this of Ms. McDonald repeatedly, what next? What next? It's no point holding our heads and having another protest expecting something else to happen. I heard Loretta refer to the fact that, this may be a slap. I mean, the incident she's talking about may be a slap in the faces of the various ambassadors of various countries that took a particular path. The question here is, when your law enforcement agency can kill and not face any sanction at all, that killing becomes an execution. And when citizens start to get executed by law enforcement agencies, the question then becomes, what are the citizens going to do to protect themselves? Because if the institutions that are responsible for bringing people to justice abandon their responsibility, do not institute charges, what you are saying to young Boston, the brothers of Boston, the parents of Boston is, you are on your own. And you know, when you say that to citizens, they behave as if they're on their own. And we start to drift towards a very difficult place in the society. Because we know at the end of the day, if you don't have the rule of law, you don't have law and order, you are in the jungle. And in the jungle, it is survival of the fittest. We don't want to go anywhere close to that. So I would really urge the authorities. This is now 7 weeks since this man has been executed in the most basic of circumstances, absolutely nothing difficult about this case, no resistance, nothing. Why is it that you haven't brought these charges? And if it is that you're trying to demonstrate that because you are immune and you can act with impunity, then the society needs to take note of that for what it is. If the law enforcement agencies are saying to the citizen, we can act with impunity, we can do as we want, we can execute people and not be responsible, then, my friend, the society has to sit back and consider where it is.
And I know for many folks would recall that Guyana was already down that road when scores of policemen were slaughtered as a result of people thought that there were too many injustices, extrajudicial killings through the Black Clothes Police and other groups and so forth and so on. I agree with our lawyer here this evening, Mr. Nigel Hughes, that the authorities, those in authority, have to be very careful. Very careful. Guyana is slipping farther down that slope. Ms. Curtin, thank you so much for your patience. I want to ask Mr. Nigel Hughes maybe one or two questions before he goes this evening. But back to you. How does that make you feel as a lawmaker, as a politician, a teacher, as a citizen, to see that fire or stations being burned down, to hear the Boston family and other family members wanting justice but can't get justice at all? How does that make you feel?
Mark, let me say from this standpoint, you recall just a couple of weeks ago, we had a parent of a teacher. And so this is not only the police force here killing people, but we have We've had lots and lots of allegations where nurses and doctors have been implicated in the same thing. Over the last 6 weeks, we would have had 5 mothers going into the New Amsterdam hospital, pregnant women going in there and dying. And there's absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, today I spoke with the mother of Jacinth, whatever, I can't remember her surname at this time. But the mother was reminding me that it's a month and 28 days, a month and 20 days, sorry, since her daughter passed. Tomorrow is going to be her daughter's birthday. She said, Miss, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. Nobody's saying anything to me. And you know, as a teacher, as a politician, quote unquote, let me say that, this leaves you, or it leaves one with a thought of, I will have to protect me. I will have to work out there to protect the people that I serve. We are going to have to protect ourselves if the society, if the laws that we have and the policies and all the regulations that we have, if they can't protect us, then we are going to have to protect ourselves. Just 2 days ago, a mother said to me, Miss, we are going to have to go back to the days when we would have had midwives coming to your homes to deliver babies, because in this 21st century, mothers are losing their lives senselessly when they go to hospitals. Strong women are going in there, and the next thing you know, they end up dead. And so I understand what is happening with the Boston family, and not only the Boston family, but so many other families. And this I'm saying prior to 2015, so many families who would have lost their sons to extrajudicial killing. But you know what, Mark? The fact is, again, like I said earlier, when people are not held, persons are not held accountable, they feel that it's all right. We can do this, we can do that because we're covered somewhere, or we're covered by someone. And so we can afford to do whatever. But I don't want us, like the attorney said, on what Nigel Hughes said, I don't want us to have to get to that place that we were a couple of years ago, because if we do get there, then it's going to be even more confusion in this land, much more than we're having right now. Because like you said, many law enforcement officers lost their lives. Many of them were afraid for people to know that they're a policeman or a policewoman. We don't want to get there. And so as citizens, we are going to have to make that drastic call to let those in authority understand that the citizens out here are hurting. We need answers, and we need them now.
All right, answers, and we need them now. I just want to urge some of our listeners, especially on social media, those who are on Facebook, that please be responsible with your statement, your comments. I know a lot of you are hurt. I know your emotions. This is not a platform that we are going to be advocating for killing of anyone, be it law enforcement officers or anyone. So please do not have us go that route by commenting about those things at all. Don't have it. And I hope that our operator Lemon will delete those comments. Mind you, be responsible with your comments. No calling for the killing of law enforcement officers. None whatsoever. Unacceptable. Mr. Nigel Hughes, I know that you're very cautious individual. You don't like to get into propaganda and all these different conspiracies and all these things. You're a straight shooter. Hence, I wouldn't go the route of asking you any question that borders that conspiracy or propaganda. However, I have noticed politicians, even at the scene of the fire, while the fire was still blazing and burning, they've already pronounced on the origin of the fire. How irresponsible is that coming from our politicians then?
Mark, like you said, I'm always cautious. I will say this. After the Brick Dam fire, we know that before 6 o'clock the following day, all the debris had been removed, or they had started to remove all the debris from the scene of the fire before there was even an investigation launched. And I'm assuming, they had some confession statement, which everybody treats with very scant regard. I didn't hear what the politician said. I was out of tone, and I wasn't really paying attention to what happened at Iberi. Again,
may I say what the politicians say?
Sure.
Or said, sorry. The Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Robeson Benn, publicly stated that it's outside force or forces who are responsible for that fire in the midst of the blaze. That is precisely what he said. There was no investigation, okay. Nothing started as yet. Go ahead, sir.
Well, Mark, we don't know what information he got on the start of the blaze. Maybe there was a confession from a police officer who said there was some outside influence that led to the fire. But this, and I really mean this in the context of which I'm going to put it. I think Guyana has become numb to the most basic of events. So people and the numbness comes as a result of hopelessness and the fact that we no longer have any expectations of anything different from those in authority. So the fact, rationally, come on, the fire is blazing. I wouldn't imagine, unless of course you have some sort of evidence of how it started, that the minister would make a statement about it. Because what that means is that, again, people will perceive it as a political statement. They will park it in that box that says, oh, they're playing politics. And therefore you dismiss it in the back of your mind. You don't pay attention to it anymore. And another national building gets lost. And we went through the Henry Boys. We're now numb to that. We went through recently, and I'm only speaking with the matters that I am involved with. Mr. Bailey in prison for 5 years. We're numb to that. Now we have a minister, while the blaze is going on, pronouncing on official statements. I think a lot of the population has reached a stage where, all of this they dismiss as politics, and therefore they understand that, truth and responsibility for actions are never going to be achieved in Guyana. So we really in a state of sort of national hopelessness. Those who are, making the money through whatever means they're making it, which is a very small percentage, they will continue to hustle. And the rest of the population is going to, they dismiss everything. The problem, one of the big problems we have as a population is that our level of political consciousness is, I think, the lowest that we've ever had since independence. Nobody seems to understand the true implication of what is going on. Because what will happen tomorrow, Mark, is that some other building will burn down. We will lose more information. People will say, oh God, another fire. We look at it from wherever we look at it, whether we read it in newspapers, look at it from behind our keyboards, and more institutions and national documents of national importance will go. It's like if the archives burn tomorrow, I don't think people will be upset. If the parliament goes up in flame, we will say, oh, wow, would you believe it? The politicians, and I mean no disrespect to Miss MacDonald here, will have a go at each other about it. But it is as if we have given up on Guyana, the project. And so I think the country's reached a stage where I don't think anything can happen which will shock the national consciousness, primarily because we no longer have a national consciousness. So, we like I said, we're some people occupying the same landmass, but we don't have any pretensions. And those who are in a position to reap all the corn, so to speak, are reaping all the corn.
All right, well said, Attorney Julius. There, people have to protect those buildings, those agencies, those ministries. These fires are way too often, and they have become questionable in the minds of individuals, and rightly so. I don't know what is happening, but Mr. Nigel used all the files and so forth. A setback in the judicial system, a setback in the courts, because we know because of the Brigham police station fire, some matters cannot be heard. because files have been missing, burnt, or they're trying to replace the files. Meanwhile, persons are probably incarcerated, awaiting some sort of trial. How much should that be of a big concern, not only for lawyers and those awaiting trial, but for citizens in general?
Mark, I think you missed what I was saying. I don't think people are concerned, period. I don't think people in Guyana are concerned, period. I'll share a personal experience.
Sure.
When Mr. Bailey, when the judge made the statements about Mr. Bailey being in prison for 5 years with no evidence against him, I wrote to the Guyana Bar Association and I said, look, dear Bar Association, here is a statement from Justice Barlow, which says that, look, a guy has been in here. There was absolutely no reason for him to be in here for 5 years. And the judge also said that there were other people she personally dealt with who were in the same position. Mark, you know what it is like to be in prison for 5 years without a charge, right? You know, I make 3 observations. One, to date, we have received no statement from the Director of Public Prosecutions on this matter. None. So it is almost as if it doesn't matter. After I wrote to the Bar Association about 2 months ago, their reply 3 days ago, after the National Bar Association of the United States had walked out on a meeting with them, saying to me, oh, Mr. Hughes, thank you for your letter. This is from two months ago, you know. What do you suggest we do? And I was like blown away. I mean, what do you suggest you do? You're the Bar Association. You have somebody who the judge has said was locked up for 5 years. You're not even moved by it. So I responded saying, look, I'm really sorry to have wasted your time by bringing it to your attention, because if you're going to ask me what it is you have to do and you are not moved by the fact that somebody sits down in jail and the judge, this is not the person going publicly and saying, so the judge says this. So when you ask me, what have we lost? I don't think we've lost anything, because the society really is numb. It's immune. It is hopeless. It no longer has any expectations of its institutions. And I think the mistake, and I say this with great respect, that you are making here by that question is assuming that people have expectations. We do not have any expectations of anything other than what we're getting here in Ghana. We don't have any expectations of the government. We have no expectations of Parliament. If literally, as I said just now, the Parliament burns down or whichever other national institution burns down, we have no expectations that any of this will ever be solved or there be any outrage. So we are living in a zone, a twilight zone, in which we have no expectations. You keep asking because you are concerned about it, but I don't think people have expectations. I don't think we expect better. This is what it is. I mean, we are where we are. It is a condition of, I think, it's not even low expectations, it's no expectations. It's a situation of hopelessness, and people almost expect tomorrow that there'll be another outrageous act in terms of, you know, a fire, or somebody will say something really silly, and they don't expect any consequences. So when you ask me, you know, I'm like the rest of the citizens. I have, you know, I'm past the state of figuring that, oh, you know, we have concerns. I have zero expectations. We are not capable of being better. I commend people like yourself and Ms. McDonald, because you think we are capable of better as a people, but we are not. We are completely incapable of being different. What we have now is the best we have. There's no better to get. And so it's not resignation, but we have to start off by saying this is as good as it gets. That's where we are as a people. I'm sorry. We have not demonstrated an ability to be anything else.
I don't know what else to say, because I've had some expectations that the people will stand up against any sort of atrocities, any sort of victimization, these sort of, in my opinion, oppression. When you have a state that has turned a blind eye on its citizens, where the citizens don't have any expectation of betterment, I think we are heading toward the part of losing all hope. But I'm an optimist. I believe that we We ought to be keeping hope alive, and that is why the people cling towards the opposition. But the opposition themselves seem to be losing some sort of hope, or maybe a heck of a lot of hope. Miss McDonald, people are clinging to you guys.
Can I just say, the people who look to the opposition are looking for defense. They're not even at the stage of hopelessness. They're at the stage where they already past hopelessness. They're under attack. The bulk of the opposition supporters are under attack and are hoping that their political representatives would at least provide some level of defense for their constant attacks. I don't even think I don't think their expectations are any higher than that. It's like a complete defensiveness. Look, y'all try and see what you could do for we. Because they're on attack. And I don't want to comment on how the opposition is discharging that responsibility, but it's a serious stage. I mean, it's like if you're under attack and the guys on the front line, the guys that behind them are supposed to be protecting you, they ain't doing it. So what's gonna happen next?
Well said. Well said. Miss McDonald. That's well said, Nigel Hughes. Well said. The people are running with their hands up. They need protection. They need folks to stand up and defend them, politically and otherwise, but they're just not seeing that. Do you think that's a fair assessment in terms of the opposition that is supposed to run to the rescue of these people and shield them? Do you feel that you guys are doing enough of that, Miss McDonald?
Well, Mark, I'm always straight and I'm always honest with you. And so I'm going to say to you that quite a lot of persons see the 31 parliamentarians as being the opposition, but they're not the opposition. They're just your representatives in parliament. The opposition is the party, the PNC, the AFC, and all the other small parties that make up that coalition. We are the opposition. And when you don't see that kind of support, as a matter of fact, the parliamentarians in parliament, if you ask about the support that we would have received from party members, we can list that on one hand, the kind of support. And so what we should be doing, what we should be having is not the parliamentarians alone going out there, but we should have the support of every single member within those on the executive of the party, the central exec, the PNC, the AFC, GAP, everybody. We should be seeing them there with the parliamentarians. And when you see that happening, then you are going to have your supporters coming there to join you in their numbers, in their thousands. But when you don't see the leaders, all right, let me say this. We have Congress, like you referred to earlier, and we notice everybody going out there, everybody walking all over the place, everybody having their groups. But if we had used that same energy that we're using now to campaign, if we were using that same energy a couple of months ago, we would have been far better off than where we are right now. And so, again, we have lost track somewhat of what we ought to do. And so I'm hoping that very soon we are going to be fully regrouped. We will understand what our mandate is. We are going to understand even more that our supporters are looking to us for that kind of help. And like Nigel said, for that kind of defense, for that kind of support, and that we are going to be ready and willing, regardless of who you are, whether you're on central exec, whether you're out of central exec, whether you're the leader, whether you're the chairperson, whether you're the general secretary, all of us are going to be out there as the opposition. As the opposition. I don't know when, but as the opposition, and we shouldn't, I keep saying this all the time, we shouldn't wait for Congress. We shouldn't wait for a big party meeting. We should be on point all the time, alert all the time, so that we can offer the assistance to our citizens and our supporters. But Mark, like everything else, I don't wait for things to happen. I am always out there. We have other parliamentarians who are always out there. But you know what? The little that we do sometimes, it don't look much in the eyes of a whole lot of persons because they need to see big things happening. But we will continue to do what we are doing on the ground every day, always, here, there, wherever our supporters call us. We will continue to be there. And the big giants, we'll leave them to rumble in the jungle where they are. But we will continue to do for our supporters. But I'm going to say this: unless we recognize that we have a critical role to play, then our society, our people will continue to be hopeless. They'll continue to feel as if there's nowhere else to go. And they'll continue to throw their hands up and to accept what is happening. Unless we start to change that, that is what will happen and continue to happen in our society.
Mark, I don't know if you'll allow me to.
Sure, Nigel, go right ahead. I'll calm down in the meanwhile. You go ahead.
Ms. McDonald, I think a lot of your supporters are not throwing their hands up in hopelessness. They are under the most brutal attack possible. To throw your hand up in hopelessness means you got to be facing someone. People are running, hiding, ducking just to stay alive. Now, I hear what you say about regrouping, but for me, this is more than just the opposition supporters. This is a question of what future does Guyana want? And it has to start with the articulation of what we are going to do with our present circumstances, what our plan is for 5 years for the country, not just for one group, but for the country. So, for example, it is obvious that you're going to build roads, and these are basic things. But what is the master plan for the country? How are we going to begin to articulate a way forward? How are we protecting the wages? So you're arguing about 7%, but 7% is really the periphery. The 7% is the periphery, because the danger with just arguing 7% is that if they come tomorrow and they give you 14%, you're going to sit down and be quiet and go in a corner and say, thank you very much, and go. And you miss the fundamental point. The fundamental point is, in the development trajectory for Guyana, how are you in real terms going to transfer real wealth to your citizens? Not by handing cash to them every time they need a handout. It has to be, you have to have real transfer. How are you going to economically empower these citizens so that they can fish instead of you going and giving them a fish? Because if you get caught in the argument about 7%, it means that, Mr. Jagdeo tomorrow, if he turns up and gives you 20%, is instantly going to become a hero. And the entire country will miss the real point, which is what are the fundamentals for development for this country, given the revenues that we are getting? How are we going to change the structure of the economy? If you talk to the business class, for example, they're taking licks from Trinidad because the Trinidadians have more capital, more resources, an abundance of equipment. They're coming into the country, and therefore we can't develop. So what's going to happen? The business community, and I'm just using this as an example, even the indigenous business community, politically aligned as they are not going to be able to survive. So when we say, oh, we're going to train and we want local content, we want local content, but we are not demanding that we put in place the ability to train people so that they get certified, so that when we say in 4 years that only Guyanese, or you have to qualify for you have to be a Guyanese to get a job to take you forward, that is the position. Classic. There will come a time, I am 100% certain, in the next 18 months, where 90% of the local businesses will not be able to afford real estate in Guyana. They just can't afford it because they just don't have the economic resources as everybody else. And we have the most liberal system. We have no license. So anybody from outside of Guyana could come and purchase a piece of land. So what's going to happen? That's going to force people from the center. It's going to force people from the big areas. And unless you have real capital, which Guyana doesn't even compete with Trinidad, and we haven't even gone beyond the Caribbean. We just deal with Guyana business versus the rest. So if you look at our industrial base, we got 2 or 3 companies, Gafoor, Tulsi Prasad, and some others. We don't even have the basis to begin to generate capital for the country. So we're getting caught up in a 7% versus whatever percent argument without looking at the fundamentals. How it is that we begin to build, one, a workforce, but more importantly, an entrepreneurial class that acquires the capital. And what are we going to do with the capital? We got politicians competing to decide, I give you $250,000, I give you $1 million, without even looking at the basics. Because when you get to another 4 or 5 years, where are your people going to be? They're not going to be qualified for the jobs. Most of your workforce is going to be foreign, and they don't even have the capacity to begin to qualify for the jobs. And if you say local content, all you're doing is pushing up the price, because at the end of the day, Guyana pays that price. So this kind of discussion is not taking place. And like I said, the level of political consciousness in Guyana now is so low. People don't understand the real fundamental issues. We're getting distracted by 7%, and that is because we're so desperate. It's not that people have lost, they're hopeless. People are running. They are running to just stay alive. And nobody, when there's running to stay alive, can think about the future. And people like it that way, because you don't have time to think, because all you're trying to do is live, brother. That's my 2 cents, Ms. McDonald.
No, I wish go ahead, Ms. McDonald. Go right ahead.
Yeah. And so just on the heels of what Nigel is saying, we have been arguing all along that ever since we knew we were going to be having oil, what have we been doing? We should have started this conversation in our schools, so that we are preparing our students.
Ms. McDonald, you guys were in office for 5 years.
No. You have that wrong, Mr. Benn. Not you guys. I was never there. I was an ordinary teacher in my school and general secretary of the GT.
No, but the current leader of the opposition, they had all the time to do that. Over 1 year. One second. Over 1 year now in the opposition. Over 1 year now. The question is, have you guys done that?
Of course, we've already put all of these discussions there, which were in process, which were on stream before coming from, and I can speak here from GTU standpoint, where we have been arguing with the Ministry of Education, even back then, saying this is what we have to do in our classrooms. We have been looking at what has been happening in Trinidad, and we are comparing what is happening in Trinidad with our colleague at the union there, and we have been looking at it right here. But you know what? When you're not in the position, then you can put forward all these proposals. You can talk about them, but it, like Nigel said, it's how we see where we go in 5 years' time. It's how we look at it. And so that's why we're in this dilemma right now.
Yeah, because probably at the GTU went soft on the then Minister of Education.
No, Mark, I don't agree. I wouldn't agree with you with that.
Yeah, I know,
you know that's not true.
He was under pressure too. Mr. Hughes, you were saying something.
No, and you know, unfortunately, I'm gonna sound depressing bell again. In the community where my office is working, Russ, there are children who have had no form of education, not online, offline, any education since COVID began. That's 1.5 years ago. To start with, their prospects, even when they were in school, because all those schools are challenged in neighborhood, in the working Russ neighborhood, their prospects of beginning to even matriculate at anything half decent was marginal. They've had none. So what are they going to do when they start to get to 15 and 16 and they see all this fancy development taking place in Guyana? They see all the fancy cars and the big buildings going up, and they're being left behind and they have no education. It is obvious what they're going to do, and you cannot blame them for it. This crisis that we are in now, I think, certainly at this minor, at the micro level, calls for self-help. We have to go back to the time when we have to start teaching our own students ourselves. We can't wait for the state, because the state's policy is very clear. We say it every day, but it is evident. If you judge people from their actions, it is very clear that these people will never attract the attention of the state. So while the GTU is arguing with the Ministry of Education, these people are beyond their scope of expectation. We have to go back at that critical stage to begin to train those people ourselves, because we have to accept that this responsibility is ours. Nobody else is going to come and help us. And unfortunately, if we leave people with limited options, they are going to come into our house, because I'm sorry, if that's where the only place they can find food, that's where they're going to come. And so this is not this is not an attempt by me to be alarmist. I'm telling you what I've seen. So we've started to do some work there, but the point is, I'm sure every single community in urban Georgetown, in parts of Georgetown, sorry, has that problem. And while the GTU and the Ministry of Education are having these great arguments about what policy they should do, every single day people are falling through the cracks. And therefore, I think the communities, the depressed communities, will have to get together and we will have to organize. Who's going to teach the children? How are we going to support them? How are we going to support other areas? Because to me, the writing is more than on the wall. It is in front of us. And we passed the stage of saying, look, we need help from somebody else. This is just pure self-defense. So we have to start educating those persons because it is a real, real crisis.
Enough of the talking. I agree with you, Nigel, because 11 years ago, you see these kids, these little kids, the Benn Foundation.
Sorry, Mark. Mark,
ahead,
sorry. I just want to give you this example. So
sure. About
4 Saturdays ago, Kathy goes down to the little school we've got to speak to these kids who are, we're doing some training for job preparation. Not gonna believe this. She starts the class, the PowerPoint presentation, with a quotation from Nelson Mandela. Zero student knew who Nelson Mandela is, and these are African students. None of them knew who Mandela is. And then when she said and started to speak about apartheid, had no clue. We're talking about 16 to 18, not knowing who Mandela is. We mentioned Clive Lloyd. They didn't even, those who had heard about him thought he came from the island. You hear where we are. You understand where we are. Mandela died, but less than 10 years ago, and they have no clue who he is.
You mentioned Buju Banton.
I know, but it's not an easy road, but
indeed. And I mentioned this here, Nigel, because you know some of the work or a lot of the work that we have been doing.
I know a lot of the work that you do. Absolutely.
Look at this. We went into the communities. We didn't wait to be elected to become officials and all these things, political officials, to work. We went straight into the communities, whether it's Georgetown, whether it's Buxton, whether it's Linden, whether it's Quarantine, wherever. And look at those kids. We reached out to them to ensure that we prepared these kids free of cost for common entrance, for CXC, computer courses, you name it. We need to see more of these things, Nigel. I
was going to commend you on that. And I think that exactly that model that you have needs to be replicated because, it is evident to me that the state is not coming to help anybody. I mean, if you think the state is going to come to help anybody, it ain't happening. And therefore, we have to help ourselves.
Well said, Mr. Nigel Hughes. Coretta, sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
Mark, I did mention to you earlier about one of the projects that I'm doing. And these are some of the things that we are doing, but you're probably not seeing quite a lot of them because I can tell you, at Liverpool on the Quarantine there at the community center, we have lots and lots of children. You have Mistress Janet Waldron who's spearheading that with lots and lots of our children. And like Nigel said, we've got to start doing this in many more of our communities. Every single one of us have got to be able to go out there. If you can't do it, pull 1 or 2 persons and have these things being done in our communities. We might not be able to do them on a large scale, but on a small scale. And so while I have a group in Alexander Village where our children would come, but because of COVID, we can't have the numbers that we used to have before. But we have our children come there, they do their homework, you help them with their reading, you help them with their maths. We have our movie nights where you have the children at a certain age, they watch a movie, and then you ask them to write a composition after you would have discussed what it's all about. And so we have these things happening in some areas, but we need to have them on a large scale where we can begin to look after our people, because we recognize again that the government will not do this for us, or they will do in some communities, but in the communities that really, really need the help, they are not doing that. And I can speak again for the community in that Leopold Street area there. We have gone out there, we've printed worksheets.
The Leopold Street area, you're talking about Nigel Hughes area right there, because Nigel is the
that area right there. We've gone out there We have printed worksheets for those children, and this is outside of the Ministry of Education. The little ones, you do those diagrams, those beautiful drawings that they can color to give their fingers to strengthen their muscles in their fingers. So we're doing little things in areas, but I'm not sure how much more you can do with the little that you have. So you try to spread them out here, there, and everywhere. But again, we have got to do much more than we're doing, and we have to have many more hands on deck.
Let me give you an example, Ms. Curtin McDonald. I've known you for a long time. You Liverpool, Lancaster area, Alice, Philippi. We're all one. But let me say this. A lot of people think that it takes a lot to do a lot. You can have very little and still do a lot. An example of what we did with the Benn Foundation. We had very little, but we spread it out so that we can do a lot. I'm saying to you guys in the opposition and members of parliament and so forth, there's so much more that you guys can do. You guys have that you can do much more. But because of this division, this perception of a divided opposition is limiting your ability, or all of the members of the opposition ability, to go out and do more, to properly and effectively represent their constituency. It is not happening at this time. It is my hope that at the end of this Congress, that all of the MPs, whichever faction you're from, who is supporting Harman, who is supporting Norton, who is supporting Van West Charles, whatever, at the end of this here, can put your differences aside and do a lot of the things that Mr. Hughes has suggested and others have been suggesting.
Mark, I need to correct you. There is no division when it comes to the MPs. We still meet as MPs and we do what we have to do regardless of where you are. There is no division with the MPs. Let me say that to you.
That's why I said the perception of a divided opposition.
And that's why I needed to clear that up. There's no division with the MPs. The MPs, they meet, they do what they have to do. As a matter of fact, today we were meeting with the commissioners from GCOM. All the MPs were there. We were sharing with the commissioners. They were sharing with us. So there's no division. And so let me clear that perception. But again, I would agree with you that we need to do much more than we're doing. And this should not only be the parliamentarians, but we should have the entire support of the party with us so that all of us can go out there and do what is expected of us.
All right, good. Mr. Nigel Hughes, leave the people, and I agree with you, young people. And one of the things, and not beating what we did at the Benn Foundation as we traveled throughout that country many years ago, and we did for years, is to teach people who was Malcolm X, who was Nelson Mandela, who are these people, who are Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others in Guyana as well. And it's a pity that those young people don't know who Nelson Mandela was at all.
Mark, it's not only to teach who they were, it's also that they learn the lessons of the strategies they deployed in the circumstances in which their people found themselves. So, you don't want to end up, oh, Malcolm X was, the one who said by any means necessary, and people get carried away with it without understanding what Malcolm brought to the table in terms of dealing with the crisis that he had. Because you can have history lessons which gets fascinated with persons, like people do with Mandela. So it's easy. Mandela's an easy figure to say, oh yeah, he's a great guy. But what you really have to look at is what were the strategies that the ANC deployed that led to the removal of apartheid. And one of the aspects of that conversation that people do not like to have is that without the violence in the ANC, Mandela would not have been able to move the white South Africans from their position. Mandela was locked away. It is the people like Winnie Mandela, etc. I've had the benefit of going to South Africa. One of the problems that they face now is that a lot of people think that Mandela, even though he postponed what they thought would be the conflagration, most of the people who are in Soweto are still in Soweto, are still without their buildings, and so without their own homes. And the big issue there is land. So the people who got land because of privilege, the whites, don't want to surrender it. And the real issue is land and land reclamation, and how does the land go back to the people who originally owned it in that part of the world. So I hear what you say about the personalities, but I think it's more important that we study what the tactics they used at the time to deal with the issues they had to confront at that time.
All right. The issues that they used to confront oppressive system at that time. I agree with you again. Ms. McDonald, I know you are running for some position within your party. I just want to say that we here at 107.1 FM, we wish you and other candidates all of the best. But you are running for vice, what is it? What position are you running for?
Mark, I have been, let me say to you, I have been nominated for several positions.
Okay.
I think I did say to you on one of our programs that as a young politician, I am not going to go there and want to run for a position because I want to have a title. I must be able to sit there, observe what is happening, and be able to make meaningful contributions when I decide to run for a position. So I have been, the positions that I've been nominated for, I would have expressed my gratitude to the groups who did nominate me. But unfortunately, to say to them that I'm not going to be accepting those positions that I would have been nominated for. And so basically, I might just run for a central executive position, but not one of the senior positions in terms of vice chairperson and chairperson and the other positions that I was nominated for. No.
All right, well said. And
Thank
I think you have been very busy around the country as well as an MP, and I commend you for that. And I hope that you are elected as a part of the central executive. But you are part of a team. And in closing, I'll have you respond to that before we get to Mr. Hughes and his closing remark. That it seems as though it's an uphill battle for the man who you are supporting to become the next leader of the People's National Congress. And folks are of the view that he wasn't effective enough as the leader of the opposition, and therefore he may bring that same sort of attitude as leader of the party. What would you say to convince people who might have that perception about the opposition leader, someone whom you are supporting as leader of the party, that he is the man for the job?
Mark, I have decided to come on board with Team Harmon. And you see, again, lots and lots of perceptions. People who believe this, they believe that. And just the same way Corruption McDonald was being labeled a PPP, Joseph Harmon is being labeled as having strong ties to the PPP. And this is so because people don't, some persons choose not to want to understand the way you ought to operate as a politician. Some persons just feel that they can start throwing mud wherever when they don't agree with you on issues. And that's the way it is. But I've chosen to be part of that team because I've seen Joe Harmon in operation. I've seen Joe Harmon leaving himself undone and ensuring that others are made comfortable. And I can speak for the teachers, I can speak for others. When Joe, the government then, the APNU received their 50% increase, Joe Harmon was the person who took, every month he took that extra and he gave it to those who were in need. He assisted teachers at schools all across this country, and that was because I went to him as General Secretary of the GTU. I mean, Joseph Harmon was the minister then, and because I couldn't get through to the Minister of Education and some other ministers, I approached Joe Harmon, I approached the minister, the Prime Minister, and two other ministers. Joe Harmon reached out when nobody else was willing to reach out. He reached out to our teachers, offering assistance to schools where they had the economics departments and they hadn't facilities there. Joe Harmon came to Alexander Village where I live when no other minister wanted to come there. And he reached out to the people there. He fixed the streets, he fixed the lights, we got new bridges. Joe Harmon assisted a family in West Coast Berbice when they had, their house was burnt and they had nowhere else to live. They were just living in a zinc shack. Joe Harmon reached out there. Joe Harmon assisted the staff at Congress Place. when there wasn't money to pay them, when there wasn't money for the 2011 elections campaign, Joe Harmon was the person out there. And, you know, lots of what Joe Harmon would have done in terms of assisting persons, in terms of the party, the work he would have done for the party, lots of that would have gone not announced. But when you talk about somebody who can reach out there to garner resources, whether human resources or financial resources, Joe Harmon is the person who's out there. Yes, persons have been saying, oh, Joe Harmon likes to write, he likes to call press conferences. But the thing is, Joe Harmon was not the leader of the party. Joe Harmon is just the leader of the opposition. And there's a limit to how much you can do as leader of the opposition. And so he has been doing quite a lot. And I've decided that while persons are saying we want to be out on the street, we have to take note of the fact that the PPP right now, all they're waiting to do is to put their hands on persons, to lock up our supporters, to put them behind bars, to want to use weapons to shoot. And so we have not gone down that road as an opposition, as the parliamentarians, because we felt that we weren't supposed, it wasn't the right time for us to march the streets of Georgetown. But we were there. You saw us assembling at the Coffee Square. You saw us assembling in other parts of Guyana. And I think if Joe Harmon is given the chance, then you'll see lots more of Joe Harmon. And while persons are saying that they don't support Joe Harmon, and we have lots of comments coming from all over, the persons who are going to make that decision are the delegates. And so we await December 11th, and we'll allow the delegates to make their decisions. But I want to say in closing, win, lose, or draw, the Harmon team is prepared to work with whoever is elected leader to foster the development and the growth of the party and to take us right where we ought to be, in terms of our rightful place in society, to make us that forceful party, and that party to be recognized.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member of Parliament, Ms. Coretta McDonald, a good friend of mine, always in the struggle, fighting up in her own ways. And she, as Member of Parliament, she's one of the ones that I would identify as busy on the ground. But let me just say this to you, Ms. McDonald, that had it not been for the bravery of guys like Nelson Mandela, who took the position that as leader or as leaders, whether they're arrested 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, that's what happened to leaders. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., all of the other civil rights leaders, when they walked across the bridge, when they stopped traffic, when they marched in front police stations, when Miss Parks, Rosa Parks, sat on the bus, even though she was threatened that she's going to be arrested. She wasn't concerned about that. She was arrested because she stood for something. As politicians, as leaders, leaders should never be afraid of spending a night in Brigham lockups, well, it's no more, or Diamond lockups, or East La Penitence, or La Grange, or New Amsterdam lockups, or police station, or whatever. Leaders should never be afraid of doing that at all. Never at all. Leaders should never be afraid of trumped up charges, whether it's treason, whether it's some sort of charge or whatever. You guys should never be afraid of those things. Leaders should never be afraid of being killed for a cause. I miss those leaders. I miss those leaders. Mr. Nigel Hughes, I'm sorry that I put you through this here. Leaders getting locked up, not for 30 minutes or an hour, and then boots run off the ground or something like that. Leaders must go through getting locked up, go in front of a police station, go in front of a court, release on bail, and gone back out again, standing up and protesting. And I don't know, Nigel, you're laughing. I wonder why you're laughing. Go ahead, your closing remarks, Nigel. Let's try to get Mr. Nigel Hughes and his closing remarks. But Ms. McDonald, we really do wish you all the best in becoming a member of the Central Executive. We'll try to get in touch back with Mr. Nigel Hughes because we want to hear from him, his closing remarks this evening on Straight Up.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Yes, Ms. Curtin McDonald. It's always a pleasure, McDonald. Always a pleasure to have you on this show. Sometimes it's not as spicy, but tonight was very hot. Maybe because of the smoke coming out of that questionable fire at that police station.
I noticed, and that's okay.
And I just want those folks. I want those folks not to listen to Benn. Benn is basically out to spread propaganda. Imagine, even whilst the flame was blazing, he knew what happened. So if he knew what happened, if I were a cop, I would have arrested Benn so that Robeson Benn can tell us what happened, since he knows what happened. And if he knows what happens, then he is part of whatever conspiracy that he's talking about. And that is what the PPP does in order to brainwash people, in order to sidetrack them, a form of distraction and all these things. Let me just say to you guys that Nigel Hughes, thank you so much, Lemon, just sent a message. His battery died, and so that is exactly what happened. But we will have Mr. Nigel Hughes back with us very soon. But Ms. Curtin McDonald, thank you so much for being on. And again, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for having me on your program.
And nothing but the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you. All right, so let me see here. Sorry about that again for Mr. Nigel Hughes. Ms. Curtin McDonald, always ready to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But here is what's coming out of this fire, as they claim it's a fire. I don't know. Is it because of a cell phone? I'm just putting it out there. Is it because of a cell phone and alleged incriminating evidence against senior members of the Guyana Police Force? Is this all about a cell phone? Does it have to do with burning of the files of maybe one of the ranks decided that they are, or he or she would probably light a fire and burn down the place? Mind you, no prisoner was there, so they can't pin this on any prisoner. But don't be surprised if tomorrow you hear that they say, because they have prisoners clean compound, sweep up, and these sort of things. Don't be surprised if they come and say that they round up one or two of those guys who are cleaning up the compound. Many of you who would have gone into Ibleri police station, you will see that they have prisoners who usually clean the stuff, right? The compound, mop up, and do all sorts of things. Just don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. I don't know. I'll be back tomorrow, right here, same place, same time. All of the three candidates, for leader of the People's National Congress reform. We want to continue to offer them time right here on Benn Sharp Radio. Right here, we offer them time. Joseph Frederick Harmon did his launch, we carried it. Dr. Richard Van West Charles did his launch, we carried it. The only person who hasn't had a launch is Aubrey Compton Norton. Mr. Norton and I spoke. I'm not going to say what time he called me in the morning, but we had a laugh about it. It was very early. And Mr. Norton made a valid point because of a post I made. He said, Mark, how could his or some of his supporters accuse me of not carrying his stuff, when in fact, Aubrey has admitted that he has never had a launch. So if the man never had a launch, how the heck can I carry something that he never had? And again, thank you, Aubrey, for calling and reminding me of that. And the fact that his supporters are being unfair to us here at 107.1 FM. That's all I wish to say. But you know we don't take bullying here, right? Lemon doesn't take bullying. I certainly don't take bullying at all, right? And of those three guys, if I had supported one of them, there is nobody could stop me from saying that I support X, Y, or Z individual. No one. Absolutely no one. None. Gosh, I just make that point clear. People think that, oh, Ben Shab beating around the bush and behind the scene, he's support. Oh, give me a break. Political neophytes, I call them, man. But anyways, don't forget, we have the show. It's on 107.1 FM from 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, it started last Wednesday from 9 a.m. Guyana time, which is 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, to 11 with Gabriel Patram, and her selector, DJ Andre. Selector DJ Andre. A great show this morning. I think she interviewed, yes, Miss Simona Brooms. Sorry about that. The Brooms spelled without the E. Wonderful, wonderful interview this morning with Simona Brooms. So join us tomorrow, 107.1 FM with Miss Patram, Gabby Patram, and her selector, DJ Andre. All right, and for now, I've got to go. But let me see some of your comments, what some of you are saying. Lots of you tempted to divine these names. Wendy Emmanuel, how are you? And John, and John, how are you doing? Leslie, Leslin, Vidna, and all the folks. Good evening to all of you, every single one of you. And I just want you guys to know that Nigel, since we issued that disclaimer about Mark Benshab owning a bunch of properties around Georgetown, he said it was just hypothetical, and he was preaching it into being. And I do hope that it comes to reality, because he's in Georgetown. Very, very expensive. Expensive. You can buy a property faster in the US than you can in Georgetown right now. If you ask them for property, it is basically 100 million, 60 million, 75 million dollars. I don't know. Gosh, no, I don't know. And I say this because you know how Guyanese are. They might say that Benshab got a set of properties. We ain't putting nothing back in his Zelle. We ain't putting nothing back in his Cash App. I was going to say something, but I can't have you guys watch every show and then all we talking about is, hey, don't forget that Zelle there, right? That's my Zelle number. Or hey, don't forget my Cash App there, and so forth, right? I don't want to say that at all. But look, it's the Cash App. But I wouldn't do that at all. You guys know I wouldn't say it. I'm just reminding you guys. But for now, I've got to go. I love you guys so much. Until tomorrow, same place, same time. Have a great rest of the evening, and let us welcome back Lemon on the job. All right? Let us welcome back that Lemon. Don't know how long he's going to last, but he's back on the job. God bless you all.
She put a pot on she hair and gone. Them a the first one out on the dam. Basket on she head, bucket in each hand. Hold up on she frock, I wanna she grandson. To the market, them a go. For the morning, the day is dawning. For cockacrow to give the villagers a warning. Rise and shine, the birds them a sing. All animal take turn as them join in the waking. Cockacrow, dagaba, donkey, bray, horse, and they even duck a quack. Cockacrow, Dagabag, donkey, bray, horse, and they even duck a quack. Come and hear this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. All day a back down, me now a come home. Inaga, jackass yard for fetchy load. Cockle shy hand, bag over shoulder, running by his side, a Rexy and Rover. From the farm, them a come. Sun a go down, but up the river. Some washing clothes, some folks are bathing at the water. Fisherman, they catch them a bring. From a canoe boat, man, them start offloading. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Lokonani. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Banga Mary. Listen to this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. Them children glad when the weekend come. Out in the yard, them all gather round. Some a play catcher, some making house from straw. Two who come later, a grandma or grandpa, all a sit down just a wait. Moonlight so bright, it's just the right time to listen story or to say a little nursery rhyme. Grandpa voice a echo in the night as he tell you tales, some pick me a there with fright. Oh, Ligan, Mungeza, Massa Kurma, Bura Nancy, even Watamuma. Oh, Ligan, Mungeza, Massa Kurma, Bura Nancy, even Watamuma. Yeah, man, that's the true story that tell the people about life in the country, life in the country.